Hello, this is Erin with the Joy in Pens and Paper, and I am going to do a 3 Inks Thursday video. In a 3 Inks Thursday video, I take 3 inks, I swatch it on 3 different papers, and I use 3 different nib sizes to do some writing, and then we talk about the similarities, differences, etc. If that sounds like something that you would like to see, obviously stay tuned, but also feel free to give this video a subscribe so that you can get alerted when I post other videos like this one. I do this one every Thursday. So for this week, the 3 papers that I will be using are the Life Bank paper, Cosmo Air Light. This is from a Galen Leather Co. Everyday Notebook, and a Tomoe River, also from the Galen Leather Co. Everyday Notebook. I will use a Kakimori Brass Nib dip pen to do my swatches, and I have 3 TWSBI Go pens with a fine, medium, and a stub nib. And the inks that I will be using today, I have 1 bottle and I have 2 samples. So the bottle is Colorverse Brunch Date. I have a sample of Teranishi Opera Rose. This was a sample from an ink swap that I did. And then another sample that was sent to me I think it was in an ink swap, or it was a little nifty gifty, which I love, is Noveler Honeycomb. This one does have a shimmer, so I will swatch this one last purely because I don't want to get shimmer in the water and then have shimmer in the other samples. So without further ado, let's get going. Oh, and I also have a mason jar of water so I can do my rinsing. And I have just a white t-shirt to absorb the moisture as I rinse off the tools and in between uses. So Colorverse Brunch Date is an ink that I really, really loved, particularly in one of my pens called Leonardo Momento Zero Grande 2.0, and the body of the pen is a pattern called Angel Skin. And I just thought it matched that pen really, really well. That pen has a elastic, fine nib, so it has a little bit of flex to it, so it puts a lot of ink down on the page, and therefore it gets through a fill of ink pretty quickly compared to a lot of my other pens, which are in the fine and extra fine nib size. I'm just going to turn this a little bit. So with the fine nib, I am going to write the brand. And apparently I am living on the edge today by not putting a writing guide behind my page, so hopefully I can stay relatively straight. And the medium pen or nib, I'm going to write the name of this ink, which is Brunch Date. Really love that name. This ink reminds me a little bit of like Bellini. So that would be something that you would have at brunch, I suppose. That's at least how I imagine what people do when they brunch. I'm not a bruncher. And then with the stub nib, I'm going to just do some lettering. Now, in rinsing this in the water, this is not a very saturated ink. In fact, even though I rinsed off 4 tools, the water is still pretty much white. There's a tiny hint of pink. All right, next up is a sample. I have this Inkapet. It's a pirate penguin that was gifted to me from a viewer. And this sample, the person who gifted it to or exchanged it with me put this lovely label at the top. And I actually was looking at it a little bit closely today just because when I get to the other one, I'll show you the cap. It's kind of a glossy sticker, which makes me wonder if it's actually a printed color swatch. I'm not sure. I might reach out to the person who gifted it to me and see how they made that. I am certainly not that fancy. All right, so this is Teranishi Opera Rose. It is similar, but so far, without it having dried down, it definitely is a little bit more rosy versus the Brunch Date is a little bit more peachy, a little bit more orange. So you got a little pink, little orange. It's got some water in the feed. There we go. All right. So Teranishi. And this one is just slightly more saturated. And I'm just saying slightly because with the rinsing of two tools, there's a little bit more of a pink color to that water. And like I said, it's called Opera Rose. And we will do our lettering. Now, I am perhaps a little known for, and I'm okay with it, leaving fingerprints in my ink swatches. So for this 3 inks, number 26, here's my fingerprint. Maybe at some point people can put all my fingerprints together and get a full one. All right, so this has a gold shimmer to it. And when I received this ink, I was actually really excited. I have a couple of Noveler or Narwhal pens, and I do like them. They're very sturdy. Oh, yeah. So here's the sticker on top of this ink vial. So it's kind of a thicker, almost cardstocky sticker paper here, or maybe they glued it on, but it turned yellow. And you will see in a moment, this is not, sorry. Just want to make sure I'm going to get the shimmer in the swatch. This is not a yellow ink. This is kind of more of a copper. And I do mention this inconsistently in my 3 inks videos. I have a swatch book made by Wearingeul that was included in an Ink Flight subscription box. And I pick the 3 colors that I use each week based on the swatches in that book, but that is a 4th variable here. That is a 4th type of paper. And often or sometimes these swatches look very different in that book than they actually do when I swatch it out here. And so I get occasionally these outlier ink colors that just don't appear to match. But that is the beauty of this here project that I'm doing. So this is Honeycomb, right? Yes. And this ink is a little bit more special because we in my household have bees. We are beekeepers. It's really my husband. I appreciate them. I appreciate their honey, but I have very minimally participated in the upkeep of the bees. Okay, so the first two are dry. We'll just wait for honeycomb to dry down. In the meantime, let's start looking. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Sometimes I think in my view, when I zoom in, the colors change a little bit. So I try to be careful or mindful of that. Starting from the top, we have Colorverse Brunch Date. And looking at the difference across the three papers, with the Cosmo Air Light, it's a little bit of a smoother presence on the paper versus on the bank paper. You can see a little bit the lines from the movement of the Kakimori brass nib. It also is fairly smooth on the Tomoe River. However, the color on Cosmo Air Light feels a little bit different. It actually, to me, is reminding me a tad bit of a darker version of Wearingeul White Rabbit. Just in that it's got the light pinks, it has the almost like rosy-ish red, and then it has these little pops of tan that are throughout. But the shading is absolutely beautiful. This is a gorgeous ink on this paper. On the bank paper, you see a little bit of an orangey quality or peachy quality coming through, and you also see that a little bit on the Tomoe River paper as well. But I do think for this particular ink, the Cosmo Air Light is the one that really makes this ink shine. It is my understanding that Cosmo Air Light paper is no longer in production because the costs are it's cost prohibitive to continue to produce it. However, last I checked, Galen Leather Co. does still have their everyday notebook in Cosmo Air Light paper. So if you are interested in getting it, go ahead and head on over there. The shipping can be a little expensive, so if you have a friend to do a batch order with and split the shipping, that would be good. Or if you get a couple of friends, you might be able to get free shipping. Then with the Teranishi Opera Rose, I just realized I'm not sponsored. I feel like I'm giving a sales pitch for Galen Leather Co. I'm not. Teranishi Opera Rose. Wow, this is pretty close to 3 different inks here. So on the Cosmo Air Light, it is leaning super mauve. There's a purple hue to it. It is a very different color than on the bank paper, and it's a very different color than on the Tomoe River paper. And the color on the Tomoe River paper, I really don't think is the same as the bank paper, but they are all the same color. Isn't that fascinating? So on the bank paper, Teranishi Opera Rose has a lighter peachy color. It's almost a lighter version of Colorverse Brunch Date, but without the if you're comparing these two, this leans a little more brown than the orangey peach versus this leans a little bit more pink in that orangey peach. This has a very, this is a rose color. So I think on the Tomoe River paper, when I'm looking at this swatch, that is what I would think would be Opera Rose. I see rose in that color, but it is very different than on the Cosmo Air Light and the bank paper. Now moving on to Noveler Honeycomb. It's looking pretty dried down. There might be a little section in the middle here that is still drying. And again, on the 3 papers, there are some differences, much more subtle than Teranishi Opera Rose, for sure. And in fact, when you look at the bank paper swatch and the Tomoe River swatch, they look pretty similar. The bank paper leans a little bit more orange versus this is leaning a little bit more pink. And then on the Cosmo Air Light paper, it is telling a whole story. There is, which here's another fingerprint right here that came through. It's got this rosy pink here, and then it's got almost well, I guess really a darker rosy pink. And then where the really saturated part is, that's where the orange is coming through that you're seeing in on the bank paper, on the Tomoe River paper. But that is gorgeous. That is just stunning. Now, in terms of shimmer distribution, let me just pick this up and give it a little swirly swirl. The shimmer is relatively evenly distributed. You did see me agitate it, but I did not agitate it between swatches, and shimmer is going to settle. So it would be logical to see a smaller amount of shimmer by the time we get to the Tomoe River. And I might be seeing a little bit of that, but it's not enough that it's really popping out to me. And even here, that's a pretty saturated shimmer. It looks like a fine shimmer. I will be honest, I have not put this in a pen yet. Actually, I also haven't put Teranishi Opera Rose in a pen. Brunch Date, I have. That's why I have a bottle of it, because I love it so much. But these are two samples that I really want to try. And given the time of year that we're in, this time of year really lends itself to the Noveler Honeycomb. And I'm looking at, I know this is not about 3 Inks number 25, but Noveler Honeycomb and Diamine Olive Swirl, those would be really nice together in a monthly palette. So I will have to tuck that away. So that is 3 Inks Thursday, number 26 in the books. Thank you for watching. If you made it to the end, please give this a thumbs up so I know that you liked it. Also, feel free to give me a comment and tell me what color families or what inks you might be interested in seeing. I really enjoy this as a way to play with the inks that I have, and it helps me to stop purchasing more because I've got more creative things I can do with the ones that I have. So I'm pretty thankful for that as well. In conclusion, thank you so much. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.